Welcome one, welcome all. Thank you for tuning in to Cedar Radio, your guide to films playing at the Art House for the week of February 7th to February 13th. I'm your host, Aaron Spears.
And I'm Dave Huffman, Director of Marketing for Cleveland Cinemas. On this week's episode, we'll be discussing The Song of Names and the Oscars.
Before we jump into the movie and topic for this week, Dave, we always like to start off with our Movie of the Week recommendation. What should people be watching this week?
Well, this is a kind of qualified, recommendation, I guess. I was just catching up on my early 70s Japanese women in prison movies, which I'm sure everybody watches a lot of those.
That old genre.
That old genre. No, I watched Female Prisoner number 701, Scorpion from 1972. It's one of the films that, has influenced Tarantino. So it's like you see little elements that he kind of picks from and things like that. So that's kind of why I was watching it. And there's a series of films by Shinya Ito, I believe is the director's name. And it was kind of run-of-the-mill for about the first half, and then the second half got pretty bonkers, and I was very much enjoying it. So it really kind of stepped up its game in the second half in the best kind of exploitation movie sort of way.
That's extensive title. You want to do that one more time for the listeners so we can...
Female Prisoner, number 701, Scorpion.
Scorpion,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yes, because the other ones in the series are like Female Prisoner, yada, yada. And, they have different names like
okay.
that. So
this isn't the 701st of the Female Prisoner movies?
No, she is Female Prisoner number 701. So there you go. But it's not that would be the longest running series of all time.
I was going to say
701 of them. That would be really impressive.
I know there's been a lot of Godzillas cranked out over the years, but I feel like this would be more prominent in our culture if there were 701
not even
of
that
these
many
movies.
Yeah.
It really fell off after about 500, but they regained their traction once they hit 701.
They really did. They have new life in the whole genre.
Was there any specific Tarantino homage or scene in there, or it was the tone? I remember going back and watching a lot of Shaw Brothers stuff when he was doing Kill Bill. I was like, oh wow, there's a ton of Kill Bill style is in those movies. Is there anything from his films?
If you watch Lady Snowbird, that is very much you see pure elements of Kill Bill from Lady Snowbird. This one, there's more just sort of you kind of get his aesthetic, and there's a little bit of kind of structure of how the story is told is kind of flashing back and forth, kind of playing with time like he does, but it's more about his whole kind of love of the grindhouse sort of aesthetic and genre than direct kind of influences like you saw in Lady Snowbird, if you've ever seen those. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Still worth watching though. Is it streaming somewhere?
Oh yeah, I enjoyed it. It is on Shudder. Actually,
okay. That's
where I watched it.
Oh, that
it's
sounds
on
about
Shudder.
right.
Yeah, so I think they have 3 of them on there on Shudder right now, so you can watch them. But of course, by the time this is now February, and I watched it at the end of January, so it might have lapsed off. Who knows? But someone will go check on their Shudder account and be like, "It's not on there. He lied." And how about you, Aaron? What was your recommendation this week?
Well, I'm not a sports fan at all. I mean, I like soccer, but I was not watching the Super Bowl this past weekend. My son, though, is a big Groundhog Day fan, and it was Groundhog Day. And a few years back, we just started watching. It used to be me making them watch Groundhog Day on Groundhog Day, and he got up. I think it was Saturday morning, so it was the day before. I was like, "Hey, we got to watch Groundhog Day." I was like, that's right. It's coming up tomorrow. So we watched Groundhog Day, which, again, watching it year after year, it surprised me this time for a different reason, because it's still Groundhog Day. It's still one of those template comedies of there's not a missed beat, I don't think, in that movie. That screenplay could be taught in screenwriting classes. It's a perfect 3-act structure. The plot points, everything, they come right at the right exact moments. Solid, hour 40-minute movie. But then we've been watching recently with our kids. So we got a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old, the TV show The Good Place, which has gotten them interested in basic philosophical ideas, but with comedy. And he just kept pointing out to me how he's like, "Oh, this is like The Good Place." It was like, "Well, this came out in '93, so this, The Good Place might be like this one, where he's slowly learning a lesson." And once you get the idea, "Oh, I can do whatever I want because this day repeats and I'm invincible." You go a little crazy, and then you go a little. Then you get suicidal and you drop a toaster in the bathtub. And then you finally realize, oh, there's an actual meaning to life, that I should be a good person for the sake of, good,
right?
being a good person
for being good,
right?
For the better good of mankind.
But it's interesting. I never really saw it as like an ethical, moral tale the way I did this time watching it with him, which I found interesting. That the 12-year-old was like, "Hey, Dad, this is kind of a moral tale." It's like, hey,
there you go.
You're right, kiddo. It is.
And of course, since I've never watched a Super Bowl in my life, this year was no different. But I did see some headline today that Bill Murray apparently was in some commercial reprising the role from the Groundhog movie.
Yeah, we ended
Groundhog
up seeing it on
but I
YouTube
didn't
later
see that.
on that day. So of course my son was checking with his the gamer channels that he watches, and he calls me, Dad, come here. And so we had to gather around the tablet and watch. I thought it was a terrible Jeep ad, but whatever. It was still a reprisal of Groundhog Day, but it's still an ad. So it's only so much fun. The new film we have opening this week, Oscar weekend, is The Song of Names from director François Girard. Several years after his childhood friend, a violin prodigy, disappears on the eve of his first solo concert, an Englishman travels throughout Europe in order to find him.
Did he say where he was going after the rehearsal?
He didn't. I'll keep an eye out.
Go and find him.
I'm looking for David Rappaport.
Rappaport, R-A-P...
Would have been here in the 1950s.
He's a virtuoso.
When was the last time you saw him?
London takes the violin right out of my hands. You never heard nothing like it in your life.
They could still be alive.
If he wanted to be found, don't you think he would have come to you long ago?
Your family perished?
I don't know.
Why are you wasting your time finding David after half a lifetime?
I might be all he's got.
François Girard, actually, people, I don't know if they're going to remember this title off the top of their heads or not, but years back had a mild-ish art house hit with The Red Violin, which I know
I would call that a major
solid
art house hit.
I wasn't sure how much people really remember that movie, though.
I mean, at the time, it was sort of the buzzed about art house film.
It was.
So
it was.
Sure. Yeah.
Late 90s.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to say like 98 or so. I remember seeing it because it was, it had good reviews. I had friends of mine that saw it were fans of it. Doesn't it have Sam Jackson in it?
Yes.
Is he the narrator, or he's the one investigating like this missing red violin? Which I bring up because Mr. Girard, he also did 32 short films about Glenn Gould, which was also a major art house hit back when it came out as well. So he has been busy throughout the years. Those are both movies from the 90s that were art house hits. He most recently directed Zed for Cirque du Soleil in Tokyo, a permanent residency they had, and performance. So he is very much interested in and attached to music and music in film, specifically in the film work that he's done over the years.
And it's got a great cast with Tim Roth and Clive Owen, who, of course, have been, actually, Clive Owen we haven't seen in too many things lately. He was sort of started out as an art house, staple, and then dabbled a little bit in Hollywood, like leading man roles with like in that action film Shoot 'Em Up that I love, but most people don't like it, but I love that movie. But it's good to see them back, in the art house where they belong and where they started out.
True. Tim Roth has been a bit more, he never did that, like, I'm going to go leading man route. He's kind of stuck with what seems like roles that really interested him over the years. So usually if he picks a movie, I would say there's a good reason for it. As one of your favorites from last year, actually, Loose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was very great. He was very good in that movie. But yeah, he's with a bigger kind of tempo Hollywood things that he's been in. It's usually more in a supporting role, not usually as the anchor leading man.
True.
He plays a good villain in a lot of things. Wasn't he the villain? Didn't he get an Oscar nomination for was it Rob Roy, or which was the movie he got?
Rob Roy, yeah.
Yep. I think that's the one, and if my memory serves.
Liam Neeson, right?
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, he was Rob Roy. I was like, I was picturing the poster for Braveheart, even though you were saying Rob Roy, and I was like, wait, no, that's Liam Neeson. But always good to see. I don't know. I guess I do have him in my head. You're right, as like character actor, not leading man. Even though he's been really good in several movies I've even recommended on the podcast over the years, like Gridlock and things. So, always looking forward to seeing what Tim Roth is up to. I feel like the main film story we've got this weekend is the Oscars are coming up. So
they are.
Feels like the nominations just came out this year, which they kind of did.
They did. This is I think the shortest window ever between, at least in any kind of recent memory that I have, of between the nominations and the actual award ceremony. It's not even a month, right? Yeah, it's just very, very quick. So the fact that the Oscars are the week after the Super Bowl, and I always refer to the Oscars as my Super Bowl. So I think if you're a big movie fan, that's what the Oscars are to you.
True.
And it is, to me, a holy day of obligation, even though I frequently am frustrated and very angered by the films that win them. I still get excited about Oscar night. I, kind of just eat it all up. So this year, it's starting to look like it might end up being a kind of dull year, at least in the major categories. That's the one thing I do fear.
How so?
But everything that's kind of all the... the SAGs, the BAFTAs, everything, the same people are winning those. So,
okay.
you know what I mean? So
we've talked on the show before, like there's a lot of really high quality, like some of our favorite stuff this year is nominated. So how would that be boring?
But like,
just
1917, 1917 right now seems to have the momentum for Best Picture, although there is a very good chance, and I like to think that'll happen, that there could be an upset with Parasite, since Parasite won the SAG Award, which is the first time a foreign language film won the Best Cast, which is their version of a Best Picture award at the SAGs. And but the BAFTAs, all the acting ones went to the same ones that everybody's been winning so far. So Brad Pitt is the front runner for supporting actor. And actor is most likely going to be Joaquin Phoenix, and actress seems like it's going to be Renee Zellweger, and supporting actress is the one that you and I are most excited about because we both agree she should have won a long time ago. Laura Dern, for Marriage Story. So I think that those are all kind of locks right now, but we all thought last year that Glenn Close was a lock for Best Actress, and Olivia Colman is, staring at her Oscar statuette right now, probably over in London. Yeah. And still probably in shock that she won it, since she was genuinely surprised, as I think everybody else was, that she did. But I did just rewatch The Favorite over the weekend, actually, and 100% she deserves that award because she was fantastic in that movie.
You remember the time, like you weren't really... I mean, you were upset because you wanted Glenn Close to win, but you weren't like, how could they? Because
Olivia.
Favorite, so.
Yeah. I mean, I just want Glenn Close. She's deserved an Oscar so many times. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those things that, like, how is it? But Alfred Hitchcock never won an Oscar either. So sometimes amazing, iconic, talented people don't win an Oscar.
Or I was kind of wondering too, in the long run of Scorsese's career, like he won for The Departed.
Right. Hardly the film he's going to be remembered for.
Right, that's what I mean. Yeah. So I was like, well, I guess so. So, I mean, I think it might even be better or feel better if Glenn Close won for something that you were like, oh, yeah, that should be the one she won for, rather than finally she got her due just to, like, cap her career.
Yeah. Well, but she was great in The Wife last year. I like that we're supposed to be talking about this year's Oscars.
I know, but anyway,
we're talking about last year's Oscars. But anyway.
Any upset predictions at all? Like maybe down the ticket? I'm going with, for my official picks, I'm going with Parasite for screenplay and Greta Gerwig with Little Women for adapted. I feel like the momentum might be moving. I feel like Parasite's not going to be the one that breaks through and captures Best Picture. I think it's a lock, like you said, for international feature this year.
Yes.
But I feel like they're going to reward it just because people just love the story so much to it, and like the impact that story has on people. I feel like that's going to grab the screenplay award.
Well, I 100% think that it should win, and I think that he has a chance as well. There could be a slight upset for him director as well. It could be the kind of thing where for this year where 1917 wins Best Picture, but then people decide to split it and show some love for him because he's just been so personally popular. I keep reading all these articles about how he is the person everybody wants to hang out with at the parties. Like everybody just loves him. So that kind of just his presence being here in the States, I think, and I guess campaigning, for lack of a better word.
No, that's what it is. It is
paying off. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. There could be a couple of upsets for that, but the acting, those are the ones that I think a lot of people just pay attention to, and I think that those are all locks. So it is cool to see, a major hit movie like Joker that will be winning some Oscars, because I think a lot of times the Academy is seen as being out of touch with what people like, and that movie made $1 billion, so obviously, it's a film that was popular with audiences, critics, and the Academy. And I think it has a good chance of winning some, some
of the tech awards or...
Yeah, I think it's probably going to win score. I think it could win. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an upset for it to win like costumes and some things like that. I think it would be interesting, and probably maybe like I think it's up for art direction, is it not? Am I misremembering that?
I remember art direction, but we mentioned on the show a few weeks back when the nominations came out that it was so refreshing to see something that was basically modern set. It's set in the 80s roughly, but
Right.
it's still like something more modern in costume design when usually it's reserved for like the Downton Abbeys of the world and the more proper The Favorite, just going back to that year again as well.
Of course, I'm wrong. It was not nominated for production design. So there you go. But
Okay.
that's about the only award that Joker isn't up for.
Right.
But, that, you know what it is? It's that Parasite was nominated for production design, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Because it is, it's such a kind of simple design. You know what I mean?
It
Like
is.
the aesthetic in that film. But of course, what is more, the house is a character in that movie and is so critical. And just even both of the houses, really, when
It's
they're in their
true.
apartment and everything. But, there's most of the film is spent at the wealthy home.
I would argue that Parasite even has some of the more important staircase sequences of the year, even better than Joker, because there's just such an interesting like upward mobility and downward mobility kind of visual metaphor going on in Parasite every time they're going up and down stairs.
Have you read the articles? Have you read the articles about how much the residents of that's in Brooklyn, right? That staircase.
Oh,
I
the
think
Joker
it's in
staircase,
Brooklyn
yeah.
or Queens, one of the two boroughs
Right.
there. That all the people that live there are so annoyed because
All the
now they're
tourists.
inundated with tourists
Yeah.
recreating the dance and the picture down the staircase.
Yep.
And this woman's like, "This is where I have to go to get to work," and like all these people are, German tourists are blocking my way and stuff. It's just hilarious.
So who did you have, real quick, who did you have for director as your prediction this year?
My prediction is that Sam Mendes is going to win, but nothing would make me happier than, you know who winning. I love him. I love Bong Joon-ho.
I'm gambling. I put him in as director. I think, like you said, the way that he's been doing the campaigning and every other article or tweet or Instagram post I see from a lot of other people that are nominated are just like, oh my God, it was so great. Just like, these are people that are voting, I think, as well. And there's nobody out there going like, oh, boo, Parasite's terrible. Like people that see it, like we said before, you see it, you're an advocate for it immediately. And also you want to go back and see it again and again.
But I'm also an advocate for 1917, which from a technical standpoint is a marvel. You know what I mean? So when you think about just the level of perfection that movie required for, everything to work is really impressive. So Sam Mendes deserves a lot of credit for that. So him winning, I think it's definitely between those two. If anyone else were to win that award, I think that would be a surprise. And that includes, massive talents like Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino. Yeah.
And you thinking 1917 is your best picture?
I think right now it's going to win. Yeah. Prediction is that it will win. Which I don't have a problem with per se. You know what I mean?
It was top of your list, or like number 2, I think.
It's,
for the year, so.
1 and 2.
Yeah,
so it's like, what am I? I'm not going to be. And again, when you're trying to quantify art, it's it's all subjective.
It is.
And these are all amazingly talented people. I don't really have a problem with anything this year. Nothing really has me angry like other years have had me just angry. And I'm looking right at you, Crash. That movie. Oh, that movie.
It's been
incredibly
a bit,
loud, or was it extremely loud and incredibly close to whatever that was?
Yeah, that's true.
That movie.
Yeah.
These are just like terrible, unwatchable, at best mediocre movies that somehow get Best Picture nominations, and one of them won. So yeah. So there's nothing this year that I'm like shaking my fist at.
Right.
But I think that like a film like Ford versus Ferrari, which I was sort of surprised that it got a nomination for Best Picture, but it's a great movie. I think that's going to win editing, and has a chance at. I think editing is probably all it's going to win, but I think the cinematography award is definitely going to go to 1917, and there's some other ones that are locks, but it's a good year, but it's going to not be the most interesting award show because it's going to be like, yep, the front runner won, won.
Right. Or it'll take a weird turn right away.
Oh,
who knows?
Yeah. Well, all it took was one thing last year, which was Olivia Colman winning, to make the whole award seem much more interesting than they were. And of course, the year before, what made them interesting was when the front runner La La Land, they misread the wrong winner, and Moonlight won. So, so you never know. It could be just some weird, debacle that makes it really a memorable evening.
Right. I think maybe you were onto something there by saying like the 4 main actor category or the 4 actor categories were such a lock, because I ended up doing like a bunch of gamble-ish picks where I was like, I'm going to go with Bong Joon-ho. I think he's actually going to get the director and the screenplay. And I went with my pick is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think is going to grab the Best Picture this year. I don't have my justification in front of me for that, but I was reading up on it. I was like,
Well,
I feel like this might do it.
Well, people do love it.
Yeah.
And if there's such a strong, if 1917 and Parasite split things,
Right.
whatever the third most popular, it can be, it's hard to say. And people love Tarantino and they love the people that are in it. So they all have a lot of friends involved.
Even to go back to like Crash, a lot of the justification afterwards was like, oh, it won because it's a Hollywood story and it's all set in Hollywood. And like, you can't get more set in Hollywood than like a Tarantino Hollywood revisionist history.
Yeah. Well, Crash had the advantage of having such a huge cast with so many people with so many friends that were voting for their friend to win. So, that's the one thing that Parasite doesn't have the advantage of. It doesn't have a lot of people voting for their friend. They would just be voting. If they're voting their conscience, they're definitely going to be voting.
Well, or 1917, if you really got like, a couple of actors as the stars and then some cameos here and there. But
yeah.
Anyway, we'll find out. We'll probably, at least some of those, probably most of my picks were horribly off, and we'll revisit that next week after the awards are wrapped up. We'll be right back with the special events coming up here this week at the theater. Well, special events are a bigger and bigger portion of the modern theatrical programming, so we want to take a little time out at the show and let you know what special events we have coming your way this week.
We have first the encore presentations of the Met Opera Live in HD presenting the Gershwins' Porgy and Bess. We've got another encore on Saturday, February 8th at 12:55 p.m. This is the most popular Met Opera we've ever had at the Cedar Lee. It was by far the biggest hit, and they've actually just added another encore that we're going to have on the 15th as well. So there's going to be a few more chances to see this because it was such a popular production.
Fathom Events and Turner Classic Movies presenting their Classics on the Big Screen series. This week we are showing Love Story, the 50th anniversary. That'll be showing on Sunday, February 9th at 1 p.m. and Wednesday, February 12th at 7 p.m. This is, of course, the classic romantic... Oh, see, I have romantic and comedy just stuck in my head together as words. This is not a comedy.
It is
classic
not.
Romantic tearjerker starring Ryan O'Neal and Ali McGraw. So also be playing at the same times out at Chagrin Cinemas as well.
And then on Wednesday, February 12th at 7 o'clock, we're going to be having a special advanced sneak preview of the new French film Portrait of a Lady on Fire. This isn't going to be opening at the Cedar Lee until February 28th, but we are going to be having an advanced show so you can see it a few weeks ahead of everybody else if you'd like to on the 12th at 7 o'clock.
And, of course, the Melt Bar and Grill Late Shift series continues. It is the second Saturday of the month, so it is time for Tommy Wiseau's classic The Room, showing Saturday, February 8th at 10 p.m.
And I just want to give a quick plug to a special that we've got going on right now. It's an online-only flash sale for Valentine's Day that is running this week. So if you're listening to this on the day that it goes live on Thursday or Friday the 7th, we are going to be having a special on our website. You can just go to clevelandcinemas.com and click on the banner there on the homepage, and it'll take you to the special offer for 2 tickets and your choice at the Cedar Lee of either 2 glasses of wine or a large popcorn and 2 soft drinks, and you'll be saving almost 25% if you buy your tickets in advance. That is going to be just for tickets that'll be valid on Valentine's Day, February 14th. I almost forgot what day Valentine's Day is.
If you're a regular listener and are wondering where our Cedar Lee 3 picks are for this week, follow the links in the show notes or head on over to any of our social media accounts where we are listing our favorite Tim Roth performances. As we mentioned earlier, being a fan of him and all of his character work over the years, and since he is one of the stars of the new film, The Song of Names, we're going to take a look back at Tim Roth's career, which is actually a pretty lengthy career.
It is.
A lot of roles there. I mean, he's one of those character actors that was doing maybe like some years or 3, 4, or 5 movies a year. And man, can he chew some scenery when he wants to. So we're going to be mentioning our 3 favorite Tim Roth performances. Join us next week when, as of right now, we'll be discussing the new film Downhill. As always, thank you for tuning in to Cedarly Radio and lending us your ears this week. All the music heard on the show is original music written by Grant Heineman and performed by the New Heights Jazz Ensemble, used with their permission, of course. Visit clevelandcinemas.com for correct showtimes and to purchase advance tickets. Also, there are links in the show notes. You can use those if you'd like as well. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are at Cedarly Theater, spelled with an R-E at the end because we're fancy like that. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you find your podcast, and while you're subscribing, leave us a rating and review, or better yet, tell a fellow film geek about the show. We'll see you at the movies.